So before we get started making any noise whatsoever, we're actually going to look at the bagpipes themselves and have a think about how they work and, you know, essentially where the bagpipes live alongside other instruments. Now, the first thing that I want to disambiguate is that the bagpipes, generally speaking, most of us immediately picture the Great Highland bagpipe, which is quintessentially Scottish, but the bagpipe is not a uniquely Scottish instrument. It is an instrument which actually can find its origins back in ancient Egypt. And there are many, many variations of the bagpipe across Europe and across into Asia, of course, right the way across the United Kingdom as well, into Ireland. The thing is that with the Highland bagpipe, it's become so ingrained in popular culture as being a Scottish thing. And of course the Highland bagpipe is very, like I said, it's very distinctly Scottish. It is the largest and the loudest of all the instruments, of all the types of bagpipe out there. The Great Highland bagpipe probably owes this synonymous connection with just the word bagpipe because of its introduction into the British military as a military instrument in the 1800s. Notwithstanding the fact that during the 18th and 19th centuries, of course, many Scottish people fled Scotland for various reasons, and they went across to Australia, and they went to Canada, and they went to America in search of new prospects and a better life. Having said that, the Great Highland bagpipe is not the only type of bagpipe found in Scotland. There are at least two others, the most prominent ones being the Scottish small pipe, which is a radically different instrument in the sense that it is nowhere near as loud. It's a deeper pitch, and it's also designed to work more with non-bagpipe instruments, and its tuning is very different as well. We'll come back to that. That's actually something we're going to talk about quite a lot in this course, so we'll not worry about that just now. The next one to that is what we call the Borders bagpipe. Now that is slightly larger than the small pipe. It is louder. It's somewhere halfway between the small pipe and the Great Highland pipe. Its pitch is more with the Great Highland pipe, but again it has a very unique sound. But regardless, all bagpipes, regardless of where they come from, they work on the same principle. Okay, so the basic principle is air goes in, it collects in this large bag, which is like a balloon, and then it outputs through the pipes that are producing the sound. Okay, so this is where immediately the bagpipe as an instrument differs entirely from any other wind instrument in the basic sense that the air coming out of here, out of your mouth or out of the bellows, isn't necessarily the air that is passing through the melody making pipes at that point. There is a complete disconnect of that. The air is actually, like I said, it's collecting in the bag, which is a reservoir, and that is where the air is coming from. So your job as the player is to keep that bag inflated, but whilst also maintaining the air pressure coming out to ensure that all of the sound making pipes are producing the right sound. Okay, and like I said before in the first video, if you are already playing a wind instrument, that is the most important thing that you need to learn right now, is that you have absolutely zero control over the tone or the finesse of the performance of the instrument from your mouth. Okay, it just doesn't work like that. It's different on the chanter, of course, because the chanter, the air is coming straight through and coming straight out again. There is no bag in between. But it's important to keep that principle in mind, because you're not going to be playing this as you would any other wind instrument. You're going to provide a consistent supply of air until your lungs run out, and then you're going to take a deep breath and blow through it again. We'll come back to that in a bit. The basic components of the bagpipe, of course, and I have some bits down here. Here's what I made earlier. So, the most important part, the bag. Now, this type of bag, this is a Canmore, a synthetic pipe bag. It is entirely man-made. That is more and more common today. You probably will be aware that bagpipes traditionally were made from animal hide, and you will still get sheepskin bags. Many players prefer them because of their moisture control capability, but also the firmness that the leather provides actually gives you a lot more control over the instrument. Okay, we will come back to that, but essentially that's what is holding together all of the pipes. For example, I have another bag here. This is actually one of my older bags. It's no longer usable because I had to cut it. But this is what's called a hybrid. It's leather on the outside, but it's Gore-Tex. It's same as the other bag on the inside. It offers the best of both worlds. It offers the firmness that a hide bag gives you, but it also offers the breathability that the Canmore bag provides. So it's better for moisture control that way. This bag also features something which is relatively new in the world of bagpipes, only coming in the last sort of 10 or 15 years or so into common prominence, that is a zip. And this obviously allows you to get inside the bag, to clean it, most importantly, because God knows what kind of things are living inside there, but also it allows you to install things like moisture control. Again, things that we will come back to. The first pipe in the process that you will get in the bagpipe is the blow stick, the blowpipe, or the blow stick, whatever you want to call it. It looks like that. All of the pipes connect into the bag using what's called a stock, and as you can see, it's got a big hole in the bottom and a groove around the side here. This is physically where the bag grips around the stock, so it creates an airtight seal, and the air comes right through the hole in the middle. This is where all of your pipes plug into. So your blow stick plugs into its own stock, and then from there you actually have the mouthpiece itself. The mouthpieces come in all shapes and sizes, and again, this is something we'll talk about much later because you don't need to worry about this right now. This will be a matter of personal preference and of course your physical dimensions as a person. We also have, on the Great Highland bagpipe, and any bagpipe actually, we have drones, but on the Great Highland bagpipe we have 3 separate drones. This is currently collapsed down. If I stretch the parts out, this is the base drone. This is the largest, and this is the one that sits closest to your head on whichever shoulder you decide you want to have the pipes resting. These are technically speaking, these are 3 separate instruments in the bagpipe. They are all producing one consistent single note tone that goes all the way through, hence the word drone, and they're simply going to go for the entire time that there's air passing through them. Okay, they're providing an accompaniment to the pipe chanter, which is the part which is producing the melody. Of course, the other part of the bagpipes is the pipe chanter. It works more or less in the same principle as the practice chanter, except of course you do not have the blow stick on the end. It will simply look something like this on the practice chanter. This plugs in to the front of the bag, and you play it the same way. The only difference is that you're not blowing directly through it. The reed on the pipe chanter is made from a wood which is in the cane family. It is chosen because it has to produce such a loud volume. If you don't know the exact measurement, the bagpipes, the Highland bagpipes, are producing a sound pressure level of around about 110 decibels. If that means nothing to you, just picture a guy with a road drill, a jackhammer going. It's the same noise level. Okay, that's why it's such a deafening sound. Of course, the Great Highland bagpipes designed to be heard across mountains. The only thing that can produce that is a fairly durable wood that is constantly under a great deal of pressure because the air is forcing its way through it. So it needs to be strong, but it also needs to be flexible so that it can continue to vibrate time and time again for months on end, sometimes, under an intense amount of air pressure. The one thing that will surprise you, if you have never played the pipes before, is that the difference between blowing through your practice chanter and trying to get air at the bagpipes is a massive, massive jump, and it's something that shocks quite a lot of people, so please be prepared for that. Okay. Like every other wind instrument, the practice chanter works on the principle of sound moving over a length. Okay, now first and foremost, we're going to look at the most important component in this process, and that of course is the reed. If I take the reed out of the chanter and blow through it, it sounds like I'm trying to mate with a duck. That is just the reed vibrating by itself. The chanter itself is designed not only to allow the resonance of that sound to shape and to be flavoured along the way. As the air is physically forced down the length of the pipe, it deepens the pitch. If you want to picture that in reality, if you've ever been outside and you've heard a police car or a fire engine or an ambulance coming towards you, and you can hear the sound of the siren lifting in pitch as it gets closer to you and then deepens as it goes away, is working in exactly the same way. This is called the Doppler effect, of course. But the basic principle is that the less distance the sound waves have to travel to you, the higher a pitch they're going to produce, and the further they move away, the longer they have to travel, and therefore the pitch deepens. And that's exactly what's happening here. Of course, the holes on the chanter are not just drilled randomly, they are drilled at very precise mathematical measurements to produce the correct frequency of the note that you want to play. That's why when you look very carefully at the holes, you will see that they are not all evenly spaced out. In fact, the deeper the note gets towards the bottom of the chanter, the further apart the holes are. But essentially, what's going to happen is when you have all your fingers down covering all the holes, you are forcing the air to come all the way at the bottom. When you have all the holes open, the air is going to come out the first place it can, which is the very top hole on the back here, and that's how the pitch changes. It is exactly the same principle with the drones on the bagpipe. There are reeds inside there that are producing, but of course there is no need to produce different notes, so there's only one hole, and that's at the very top of the drone. But the drone requires the full length to produce the proper sound. Again, the drone reeds by themselves in isolation, if you blow through them, they sound horrendous, but the wood that is used in the construction of the pipes is producing the appropriate resonance, and of course the distance that it has to travel across the length of the drone is helping to shape that sound. And that's something that we'll come back to more when we look at the bagpipes and we think about tuning. The last thing we want to think about in this video is just thinking about where the bagpipes live in relation to all the other instruments that we would talk about as being in the Western musical world. It may come as a bit of a surprise to you, or may not, that traditionally the bagpipes do not tune to anything you would find in an orchestra. There's a whole load of reasons for this, and why that continues to be the case for new bagpipes made. But the biggest thing, of course, is that the Highland bagpipes developed in isolation from the rest of the world. Okay, you didn't see Mozart sitting down thinking, yeah, you know, we need a bagpipe solo in this. You know, it didn't feature. That's something that is a source of consternation for a lot of pipers, and of course nowadays you can get what we call concert pitch bagpipes, which are built and engineered to be tunable to a piano and to work in an environment with other instruments. But generally speaking, for the most part, you're either going to see a solo piper or you're going to see a piper playing in an ensemble with other bagpipes. Okay, the main word that you need to take away from it this moment in time is that the bagpipes are what we call a transposing instrument. And if you are a player of other instruments, like for example if you play the saxophone, you will also know that the saxophone is a transposing instrument. And for those of you who have absolutely no idea what that means, basically what it means is that if I give you sheet music and you play a note that's written on that as a piper, and then I also give that exact same sheet music to a piano player and they play the note as written, the two notes are not going to match each other, and it's because of this tuning differential that's going on. We will come back to the exact mechanics of that later on. You don't need to worry about that so much just now, but remember that word transposition.